Hey guys, welcome to Gear Up 101. So this video is probably going to be the longest out of all of them just because contacts logs are probably what you're going to be using the most in your job. Because we are a federal grant, we're required to document every interaction we have with a student and parent. So I'm going to go through a couple examples with you guys of when you would do this, when you would do that. So I'm going to do that and show you how to do it. So on my home screen, I just like to keep all my stuff right here on the side. So that way I can click on that instead of going in a box every time. So I'm going to come on to my contact log. So I'll pop up this little web browser. Okay, this is what the contact log looks like. So you are able to select what position you are. So I'm a counselor. I am out of San Juan High School. And that M is there always. I can't seem to get rid of it. So I just usually like push things to the side and put a couple of spaces and then put my name. Okay, so I'm just going to read you guys off some scenarios, and then that way I can show you how I would document them, and then we'll go from there. So first one, you are walking through the hall and you see one of your students. You stop them and ask how their history class test went. Okay, this one is super common. One thing I like to do so I can interact with a lot of my students is between passing periods, I'll go stand right in the central spot or location. And that way, if I need to talk to someone in specific, or I just see someone walking by and I'm like, hey, what about this? What about that? Then I can do that during that time so I don't have to pull them out of class or anything like that. And then I'll walk them into class or something if they're late to excuse them. So very, very common. So what I would do is I would come over to the student name, and I'm just going to make up some names here. So let's just do Joe Black. I saw Joe, and I asked how his history test went. That's really all I need to put for the service description. I don't need to say, oh, he said he failed it, he's stressed. You don't really have to document that kind of thing. Really, it's just like the generic what interaction happened. So coming back over here, because it's generic, I can come down here and look at my codes. So for student, I have all these options. So I'll go through them real quick with you. So AE, that's for ACT. So like if you administer the ACT or anything like that, or you're doing a workshop or anything along those lines, that's AE. Mentoring, we'll do an example of, we don't use life plans anymore, so that's sweet. AP, so this is pretty much 90% of the time what you're going to use. When in doubt, go with this code. Financial aid counseling, so FAFSA, scholarships, anything like that. So in this case, because I just asked how a test went, that's just going to be AP. Oops, AP. And then for the service name, I can just do something that's generic as test. So you don't have to be like very, very like to the point detailed. It's going to be just fine. So my service method, because I talk to him in person, it'll be direct. You can type out direct, or you can just leave a D. Don't mind that little one there. Again, I can't seem to get rid of it. And then I'd come over here and I would just date it. So today was 8/1/2020. And interactions, you will always at least put 5 minutes. We don't want to have random numbers like 1 minute or things like that. So as a rule of thumb, 5 minutes minimum. And then it's also really convenient if you just kind of round your numbers. So instead of saying, I talked to this person for 7 minutes and 13 seconds, just round it. So I would either put 5 or 10 or, use your best judgment. Again, that's not like you have to use the 5-minute blocks or whatever. I just highly recommend it because it just makes things easier in the long run. So I would do 5 minutes. And that's how I would document that first one. Super quick. So here's another one. A student comes into your office and has a bunch of questions about concurrent enrollment. They ask you questions like, what ones do I need to get done for the program I'm wanting to get into? How many concurrent enrollment classes can I take at one time? Does concurrent enrollment classes take the place of high school classes? Imagine this conversation took about 20 minutes. Okay. So again, I'm going to document that now. I'm going to say that it was Julie Smith that came in and asked me about that. So this code actually, what we would use isn't on the bottom. I'm really hoping they update that, but as of right now, it's not. So what code I would use for this would be RA. And what that means is rigorous academics. So rigorous academics is pretty much anything that's past the basics. So if you have a kid who's taking English 1010 from the college instead of their senior year of English, that would be rigorous academics because it's a step past the normal, like the norm. So if you're talking about them going into college or things like that, or along those lines, you can use the term rigorous academics, the RA. We are encouraged to use that by the state. The more we use the code, the better, because we are a secondary access grant. They really ask us to use that as much as we can. So for my service name, I would do concurrent enrollment. And I could just come right here and I would say that student asked questions about enrollment. And if I wanted to, I could come in here and like put program requirements or things like that. I choose not to, just because that adds more paperwork on. So I just like to leave it very generic and broad. So 821 again. And then the scenario said it took me about 20 minutes and I'm done. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, you are in the store around 7 at night. You get in line behind the parent and they turn around and ask you what the date and time are for the upcoming Gear Up workshop. They ask you what they're going to be covering during that time. First question, can I document this? Yes. Yes, you can document this. With our job, we aren't really set to just like, I work from 9 to 5 because we work with students and parents. Really, we could be working at any time. And so this was just a good opportunity, like, hey, we live in a small town, they saw me in the store, they asked me a question. I highly encourage you to document this, just because you're still servicing them, you're still passing on that information, and it's good to have that record. So yes, please, please, please document this. So how I would do that, you would still need to put a student name just so that way we know who the parent belongs to. So let's say that it was Cindy Allen's parent. I'll just Allen. And it was the mom, and her name is Taylor Allen. Okay. In this case, because it was just the parent, I'm going to select this parent only option. And that means I don't have to put a code for the student because the student wasn't there. So if I come down here, sorry, that was notification. I can look at my parent codes. So I have family events, life plan, which we don't do, parent family counseling advising. Okay, that's what I'm going to want to use. So this CO is just like your AP, but with parents. So CO is pretty much usually the go-to code. CO. Service method direct. Oh, I forgot that up here. Service name, I would just put G workshop. Okay, and then parent asked about the upcoming workshop. There we go. And then, and that probably took maybe 10 minutes. We talked for a while about it. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, you have a long meeting with a student and you talk about a variety of things. FAFSA, what colleges they are going to apply for, what their progress towards graduation is, housing, getting a job, etc. Okay, my first question or statement is you have the ability to document this separately. And what I mean by that is because you talked about FAFSA and scholarships and stuff, you could put that as one entry, and then the next one talked about housing, applying for college. You have that ability. However, you don't have to do it that way. I know some people do like to separate those. What we've been told by the state is, as a rule of thumb, if it's like longer than a 20-minute conversation, so say I met for an hour and for 25 minutes we talked about FAFSA, for the next 35 we talked about college or ACT or something like that, you can document that as 2 services. I personally don't care to do it that way. I would rather just do it in one service log, just so that way it's less work for me. So that's just a personal choice. I prefer to do it under one. So let's say I was talking to a student, let's say it was Brandon White that I talked to. So because I'm putting it under one service and we talked about a variety of things, I'm just going to use AP versus FA because AP is more inclusive of everything we talked about. Okay, service name, I'm going to just put college. He was in my office talking to me. Talked with student about college. And again, this is where I could put parentheses and just say FAFSA, scholarships, application to college, housing, things like that, if you wanted to be more specific. Again, a lot of times when you do write these service descriptions, it's kind of just up to you, your personality. As long as you get the gist in there, that's all we really ask for. So I'm going to go 8:21. And then he was in there for a long time. He was probably in there for an hour and 15 minutes because that's a lot of things to go through. Okay, let's do a couple more. You have a student email you and ask when you would be available to help them finish their FAFSA. You ask what they have left, and it is just the parent portion of the FAFSA. You coordinate a time when the student and the parent can both come in. They are able to come in later that afternoon after school gets out. They both come to your office and finish their FAFSA. It takes about 30 minutes, and then they thank you and leave. Okay, so this situation, I'm working with one student all in one day. However, they are completely separate interactions. So that student, it sounded like they emailed prior. So say they emailed you at 8 a.m., but the parent and him weren't able to come in physically until 3 p.m. So in this situation, you would document it separately. So let's do that. So let's say that we have Ashley Jones, that's the student. And I'm gonna do AP because she's just trying to set an appointment. So email asking for a good time to come in and complete FAFSA. In the service method, I'm going to put V for virtual because it was an email. And then 8/21. And then between corresponding, I would say 10 minutes. I mean, give or take, it doesn't really matter. So now for the next one, I would actually write a completely different thing. So she had to bring her dad in to finish the FAFSA. So I'm going to say her dad's name is Dan Jones. It was both of them that came in, so I don't have to select parent only. So that means I need to have codes for both. So because we're doing FAFSA, if you look down here, we're going to have FA for the student and FW for financial aid with the parent. So that's when you would use those. Okay, service name, FAFSA. They were in my office, so again, I can spell it out if I wanted to. Okay, helped finish the student's FAFSA. Simple as that. And yeah, it probably took about 30 minutes, okay? Hopefully that makes sense why we would do 2 separate interactions. It's because they were separate. They weren't at the same time. Like this example above with Brandon, it was one sitting, it was one interaction, okay? Let's do one last one. You have a graduating senior come into your office, sit down, and tell you about how nervous they are for college. They don't know how they are going to balance the homework load and trying to work as much as possible. You listen as they tell you about their worries, and then you go into some time management examples and scenarios with them. You ask them what they would do in each situation and how they would respond. They give you all the correct answers, and they thank you for helping them realize that they can handle it, and they are now excited about going to school. Okay, so as our role as Gear Up counselors, we walk a very solid, thin line between being mental health counselors and being advisors, mentors, whatever you want to call us, counselors. So in this case, because it's not a mental health talking about suicide or problems at home or things like that, then this is an okay example of when we can work as that, because we're giving them encouragement, we're giving them a pep talk kind of thing. So in that situation, it's okay. So let's document this. Let's do Alice Palmer. Okay. This is when you would use the ME code for comprehensive mentoring. This can be when you're just checking up on a kid. You've said, hey, I've noticed you haven't been coming to school as often. Everything good? Do you need help? That kind of thing. It can either fall under like comprehensive mentoring or AP. So just use your best judgment when in that situation. For this, I would definitely use ME because we talked about time management. And in person, why did it drop down to that one? Oh, you silly thing. Now I can't spell, I'm second guessing myself. Why is it doing that? Okay, I'm gonna just leave it. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so talked with student in this about concerns balancing college life and work life. Okay, pretty much sums up what we talked about. 8/21, 2020. Okay, and we talked 40 minutes. Okay, so then you'll just come down, and this is just for one day. So you couldn't come down here and you wouldn't put like 8/30, 2020. Okay, if you wanted to do a different day, that's when you would need to start a whole new page. So please remember to only put one day on there. And that just helps our data specialists to be more accurate with their stuff. Okay, so then you come down here and sign one of these. I usually just sign counselor because that's technically my role. And then this portion, initial and entered Encompass, is for our data people to show, okay, I have entered this one's done. I do want to show you how to upload it in Box just in case you're still not quite comfortable with that. I want to see a virtual walkthrough. So if you want to see that, keep watching. Otherwise, hopefully that helped. So what I would do is I'm going to wiggle my mouse around until I can see this black bar pop up. And I'm going to go to print. Then here under destination, instead of doing a printer, like that's my printer in my office, I would just save as PDF. Okay, save it. Give it a second. When you pops up, you're gonna have the option to rename it right here under file name. Please do that. So contact log and then the date. It won't let you do the dashes, so you have to use periods. It's just weird like that. Today's the 21st, 2020. And I actually have one saved for today because I've really done one. So I'm gonna just do 2022, just be aware that I would put today's date, but I already have one saved. Okay, I'm gonna do save. So then now that's saved to my computer. So then I will go to Box. I will go to my school. So see, I have Box, Region 11, Gear Up, San Juan. That's my high school. Then I'm gonna come here to this advisor completed paperwork option. I have in here months. So please find the corresponding month. It's August right now. And see, I have some paperwork already submitted. So then to submit another one, I'm going to come up to this upload right up here, if you can see that, file. And then because I renamed my file, instead of having to go through all of this, I can just come here and do contact log. Oh, look, 8/22 right there. That's the one I just made. Click open, and now it's in Box. And that means it's uploaded, it's submitted. Then you would just email Sarah and Mo and just let them know, hey, this is done. Thank you, data people, for being wonderful and dealing with this. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully that going through those different examples really helped you guys, because I know that sometimes it's really tricky, especially in those kinds of situations where you're not quite sure what to do. Hope that helped.